What you're looking at here is documentation I created for a medical billing software program, and you can see down below on the status bar I'm on page 2 out of a total of 109 pages. And well, actually my cursor's on page 2, this is page 3. And what you're seeing here is my table of contents. It lists all the headings throughout my entire document and the page numbers they can be found on. Now the table of contents will only pull in headings that Word identifies or sees as headings. And if you watch my styles training video, you know that you have to use the style headings, which again can be found up here on the Home tab in the Styles group, and there you go, headings 1, 2, 3, and so on. So when you want to use this advanced feature and have Word see headings throughout your document to be able to pull into your table of contents, when you go into your document and you select your text that you want to make it as a heading, well, you can't apply your own format. You have to apply one of these styles. And you can see it's in a hierarchical structure for heading 1, which is the main point. It's got larger font and it's bold. And then the subpoint to the main point is not so bold and it's smaller. And then the sub to the main is smaller and not as bold, and so on. And so you go ahead and select the text and apply one of these heading styles. And if you don't like the style, again, you can go ahead and right-click on it and modify it. And that way you can make it, well, you can make it smaller if you'd like, or change the color of it, the font type. In any case, again, you can watch my styles training video. But down in the table of contents, how it interprets that is that anything you see in bold on that page, like Master File Setup, page 22, has the heading 1 style applied to it. And then below that, the text dashboard has the heading style 2 applied to it. And then for heading 3, indented, and below the heading 2 style is the import and create diagnosis codes. In fact, let's go ahead and take a gander. When you hover over the table of contents anywhere, you get the pop-up and it says if you hold down the control key and you click, it'll take you right to that. So if I do it for Master File Setup, hold down the control, you get the finger, click, whoa, it takes you right to it. Isn't that cool? I mean, when you print the document out, you can look in the table of contents and see over to the right the page number it's found on and flip to it, but come on, control click, well, that's a lot faster. Now you can see that when I click anywhere within the heading, that up here in the Styles group, it's heading 1, and then the subheading to the main heading is heading 2, and for level 3, as an example, I have to scroll down a wee bit. The diagnosis codes, which is for Master File Setup, that's the subheading, heading 2, but to import and create, those are subheadings to the subheading. So when I click on importing diagnosis codes or creating, you can see it's got the level 3 heading style, and that will be pulled into the table of contents as we saw, because again, Word recognizes it as a heading. So let's go ahead and go Control Home, scroll back down to the table of contents, and let's go ahead and insert a table of contents. I know we got one here. I'll have to remove it. But before we do that, actually, when you come over here and you click anywhere within the table of contents, it automatically highlights it. And as you recall in earlier training videos, anytime you click into some text and it highlights it without you clicking and dragging, or when you click and drag and it does a double highlight, so you have 2 shades of gray, well, as you recall, and in this example, the table of contents, it means that the table of contents is a dynamic field, meaning that it's updatable, which is nice because if you make changes throughout your document, like computer setup is not found on page 9 because you inserted some more pages in front of it, or maybe you got rid of troubleshooting, so it's just computer setup. In any case, you want to be able to update that, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But first off, let's go ahead and remove our table of contents, and you can do that one of a couple of ways. You can either go ahead and click and drag, hit delete, and then, well, we got more, click and drag, delete, and okay, that's taking too long. Instead, let me hit undo a couple of times. I can click anywhere within the table of contents, and then come up here and click on the References tab. Go to the Table of Contents group and click on Table of Contents. Yes, it's like we're inserting a table of contents, but let's not do that just yet because we want to remove. So go ahead and click on Remove, give it a second, and it's gone. Now to insert a table of contents, well, let me come up here, click on the Home tab, go to the Paragraph group and turn on the codes because I want to see where I want to insert it. Okay, there's the page above, and well, let me insert it before that section break, the next page. Let me hit enter several times. And if you'd like, you can type in a label for the table of contents. So when people look down below, they're like, oh, that's the table of contents. It's up to you. I'm going to insert my table of contents right there. But before I do it, I want to make sure that I turn off the codes, because if you don't, as you recall in earlier training videos, that when you insert like the table of figures, table of authorities, or even the index, that you're going to get pagination errors, or there's a likelihood that you will. Because what it's doing is that it's revealing the codes or those items that you may have marked throughout your document, and when it reveals it, it has next to it that code. And so to reveal the code, it has to push the text to the right of it or below that, if it takes up enough space, down a line. And if it pushes it down enough, what you think is on page 3 may be on page 4. And so to make sure that you don't insert the table of contents incorrectly, you want to make sure that you turn off the codes so it collapses everything. And so it may be at the top of page 4, now gets pulled out to the bottom of page 3. When I insert it, then it'll say it's on page 3. If I left the codes on and I inserted it, it would say it's on page 4, but in all actuality, with the codes off, it's on the bottom of page 3, and so that's really messy. So make sure you turn off your codes, and then go ahead and insert your table of contents by coming up, clicking on the References tab, Table of Contents group, Table of Contents, and you can click on any one of these. It's the built-in. You have 3. Just a simple click, and give it a second, and there you go. You can do that, or let me click anywhere within it and come up here, Table of Contents, to remove it. Give it a second. And let me come up here, Home tab, turn on my codes, make sure everything's grizzly. Now I got to turn off my codes again, and the reason why I'm doing this again, because when I go back to the References, to Table of Contents, don't you want to find out what the custom Table of Contents is about? I knew you did, neighbor. Let's go ahead and click on it, because here, like the table of figures and table of authorities, it's the same in that you get the preview window, but you can tweak it so you can actually do something that's a bit more custom than the 3 default built-in templates. So you can see in the preview, if you want to show page numbers, leave it, uncheck it, disappears. Let's show it. And if you do show it, instead of right align, you can go ahead and uncheck it and have it squished right up next to the heading. But I don't like that. Let me check it, and then a leader that leads your eye over to the page number, or no. So if I'm looking at your table of contents and I'm looking at this heading and I'm like, oh, it's on page 5. Okay, I exaggerate, but you get my point. I like my leaders to lead my eye. And then below that, you've got your different formats. You have From Template, which is the only one that you can modify. So when I select Classic, can't modify that. And you can see a preview of the Classic, which you can tweak by adding a leader. Let me go back to From Template. And if you want to modify that, go ahead and click on Modify. And then it says, please select the appropriate style for your index or table entry. I'll go with the default, click Modify. You got your style window that we went over in greater detail in an earlier training video, so I'll refer you back to the styles training video. But in short, you can change the font type, the size, the color. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click Cancel, go with the From Template, and then the levels. Now if you have more than 3 levels, like 4, 5, and 6, and you want to include those, well then go ahead and make sure you include those in your table of contents. But if you do select all 5 and you actually only have 2 within your document, it'll only pull in those 2. It won't leave a big gappage for you. In any case, I'm just going to focus on the 3 and click Okie dokie. Cool. Let's go ahead and scroll back up to the top of the table of contents. Beautiful. Now let's see what happens when we make some modifications within the document and how we can update the table of contents. Let me go ahead and scroll down. Let's go to Master File Setup, hold down the Control key, click to jump right to it. Now Master Files Setup, the heading is on page 22. So with the cursor in front of it, if I hold down the Control key and hit Enter, those are the shortcut keys to insert a new page. So now it's on page 23. And then if I want to make a change to, like, instead of dashboard, add an S, dashboards, alrighty. And then if I want to include something else into the table of contents, like place of service, type of service, select it, and then come up here, click on the, well, you can either click on the Home tab and choose your heading style, 3, or on the References, you can say you want to add text to the table of contents. Right now it says Don't Show. And I just have the 3 levels, so I can go to level 3. When I select level 3, Okay, it selects the entire paragraph. I don't like that. Let me undo that. Go to the Home tab, and with it selected, select heading 3, and it just applies to what I have selected, not the entire paragraph. Whew. So keep that in mind, the differences between the two, but you can do it from the References tab. In any case, let's go ahead and go Control Home and scroll back down. And to update our table of contents, just go ahead and right-click anywhere on it, and you get the Update field. Click on it, and you get two choices. You can update page numbers only, so if you didn't make any changes by applying additional heading styles to be included, that text within the table of contents, then just go ahead and do page numbers only. Click Okie dokie. And so master file setup, what used to be on page 22 is now page 23. But if you want to update the entire table, that includes also the page numbers, then right-click Update field and say everything man, and then click Okie dokie. Give it a second, and there you go. The S for dashboards and the place of service and type of service. Oh, and it also included the bullet point, which if you don't like that, then you'll probably want to go down there and not have that bulleted, and then right-click to update it so it doesn't pull that in. In any case, I'll leave it as is. Now there's another way that you can add any text to your table of contents. That is, if you don't want to apply a heading style to it. And to do that, let me show you. Let's go back to the master file setup, hold down the Control key and click on it. And let's say that I want to, I don't know, let's just select this text right here. Let's say that I want to include that in the table of contents. So instead of applying a heading style to it, because I don't want it to be bold and pop out, if I want it to be at the same level as heading 1, what you can do then is with it selected, hold down the Alt key, the Shift key, and hit the letter O. And it has the entry here, which is what we have highlighted. And then the table identifier is C for the table of contents. And what level do you want it at? Level 1, 2, 3, well, let's do level 1. And then go ahead and click Mark, close out, and you see what it's doing? Just like we saw in the index training video, you get these wavy brackets, and then the code that says TC to include the text in quotes into the table of contents. And so everything in between the quotes is going to be included. And at what level? Level 1. So if you want to update that, not include everything there, maybe just like to that point, or maybe we'll just add some ... like etc. Then make sure you do it within the quotes, because if you do it outside of the quotes, well, if you know enough about coding, go for it, but you're taking your chances. I'm just going to make my changes within the quotes because that's safe. And then when you're ready, let's go ahead and do Control Home and scroll down. And before I go ahead and update this, you want to turn off your codes because, again, the pagination thing, remember when we did the manual entry to include that text into our table of contents, how I added the code to the right of it? When that code got added, it pushes over what's to the right, below it or down a line. And if you get enough of those, it'll push everything over. So where you get to the end of, well, 112 pages, you may have what's on page 110 be now on page 111 with the codes on. But with the codes off, it would pull it back to 110. So you don't want incorrect pagination. So by all means, come up here and turn off the codes. And then go ahead and right-click to update the entire table, okie dokie. You know why we can't find it? Because when it comes to updating your table of contents and you actually did a manual entry, well, you have to do something additional manually to say that you want that manual entry into your table of contents. And it's not done through updating. You actually have to reinsert your table of contents. So to do that, let's go ahead and click anywhere within it. Well, instead of removing it, let's just go ahead and leave it as is. Come back up here, click on the References tab, click on Table of Contents, and it's under Custom Table of Contents. Go ahead and click on it. We'll go with everything that we see here, and this time click on Options, and there you go. You have to manually check that you want your manual entries to be included, your table entry fields into the table of contents. Go ahead and click Okie dokie, click Okie dokie. It's going to replace my table of contents with the new table of contents. Let's go ahead and scroll up to find it. And there it is. master files, transaction codes. Isn't that cool? If you need to view two parts of your document at the same time to either compare and or edit, the old way would be to, well, let me scroll down. If I want to compare cinnamon to something else on another page, like vetiver, it would be to scroll back and forth and try to memorize what was on the other page to compare on this one and vice versa. In any case, you can go ahead and use the split window feature. It'll split your window right in half, so you have a top section and a bottom. In the top, you can go ahead and look at one part of the document and the bottom in another, so you can compare and contrast between the two and actually make some changes. So to do the splits, just come up here and click on the View tab, go to the window group, and there you go. Click on it, and it splits it. So you can go ahead and click in the top window here and scroll down to find, well, let's not do vetiver, let's do cinnamon. Oh, let me go down just a little bit. So cinnamon's right there. And then down in the bottom part, let's go ahead and scroll down so vetiver's right there. Hey, isn't that cool? Now I don't have to scroll at all to be able to compare and contrast between the two. And if I wanted to copy part of it, then I can go ahead and select it and paste it down here, or while looking up above, I can get the gist of it and type in some similarities with vetiver and cinnamon down below if I want to expand upon it. In any case, we can now compare and contrast. So to go ahead and get rid of the splits, so I'm not looking at two different places within the same document, you can either, well, come up here and click on Remove Split, and it disappears. Let me click on it again to have it reappear. You can also hover over the split bar, which allows you to resize it. So if you want to click and drag up, you can have more of the bottom section, less of the top, or you can go ahead and double click really fast and it gets rid of it. The outline view is used to show headings in a hierarchical structured outline. That is, when you're using Word's heading styles throughout your document. And as you recall in the styles training video, when you want a heading, or one that Word sees as a heading, so you can use Word's advanced features like table of contents, or in this case, the outline view. You want to make sure that when you convert this into a heading, it's not of your own formats, but it's of the style here, like for your headings, using heading 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you can see anywhere that I click within the text, it's got the heading 1 style, which is the main point, and it's got the larger font, as opposed to something that's in the hierarchical structure lower on the totem pole, or as you can see, heading style 2, which supports the main point, not as large, a little bit smaller, but bigger than the regular text or the body of the text, which is what you see down below here. Either bold or not bold, it's all the same. It's all normal text. And so the general purpose of the outline view is to help you focus on organizing or outlining your document with said heading styles, like moving whole paragraphs with these. So let's go ahead and take a gander by going to the View tab, to the Views group, from Print Layout to the Outline. And you can see when I hover over it, it says you can see your document in outlined form where content is shown as bulleted points. So your headings will be as bulleted points as well as the rest of the content there, or each paragraph, but in a hierarchical structure. So heading 1, which is this one right here, and heading 2, that will be the main point. That one will be indented and over to the right. So let's go ahead and take a look, click Outline, and there you go. Hierarchical structure, main point, heading 1, and then subpoint, heading 2, indented, and below that, and then the body of the text. As you can see that when I click anywhere down below here, these bulleted points, each one represents a paragraph. Up here says it's the body of the text. But when I select something at a different level, like level 2, which is heading 2, and then for the main point here, which is heading 1. So back here, heading 1 is known as level 1, heading 2, level 2, and so on. And if you need to make any changes as far as the headings go, like let's say for my bold here, like favorite places and Potter responsibilities, I want those to be headings for the body of the text down below. And I don't want that heading to be at the same level, level 2, as draft outline, because that is supported of what we're drafting here, like favorite places and responsibilities, which is the support to the main heading or the main point, our family annual camping trip. So what I can do is when I have my cursor in that bulleted point, I can go ahead and convert that to level 3. So it's not at the same level as that one, but it's still in a heading, so I can get my hierarchical structure layout here. So to convert that to level 3, or to any level for that matter, go ahead and place your cursor anywhere within that bulleted point and come up here and change it from body to level 3. Now when you do that, it takes everything below that and pushes it over to the right because it thinks that everything below that is supportive of that heading here, or that level, heading level 3, which is supportive of that subpoint to the main point here. So you can do it that way, or let me go ahead and hit undo. You can come over here and click on demote. When you demote that, you actually push it to a subheading of that subheading of the main heading. So there you go, level 3. Now if I want to go ahead and take something that's already, well, beneath a heading here and make it also at the same level as that one, well, you can go ahead and come up here and say, well, you're level 3, right? Pulls it out, or let me hit undo. If I take this and demote it, well, it's going to take that and the 2 bulleted points below that, the paragraphs, and push it over to level 4. Well, this one will be level 4, so if I demote that, that's level 4, and you can see it right there. That's not going to work. So I can go ahead and go back the other way, and it promotes it to level 3. So you have demotion and promotion. And what are these others here? Well, you can jump right to heading 1, or you can go ahead and demote it right to the body of the text. So level by level here, or heading 1 or body. Those 2 outer double arrows. Now, how is this going to look in the print layout view once I converted these to level 3 or heading level 3? Well, to get out of the outline view, just come up here and click on close. Takes us back to the print layout view, and well, there you go. It's not much of a difference, except it seems like it's bold, and that one, when I click in that text, different type of font, and so it doesn't really stand out. I mean, it does a little bit, but what I could do to help it stand out, the body of the text to the heading level 3, is maybe I could go ahead and select that and make it bullets or list items, like, numbering 1, 2. Ooh, I like that. Let's go ahead and do that to that one as well. 1, 2. Cool. Let's go back to our outline view. View, views, outline. Okay, that stands out. Great. Now, some additional tools you've got is that you can move up or down. And so when it comes to moving items, like if I don't want Hilton Hotel to be number 2, it's got to be the first thing on the list before we go to the national park. Then come up here and click up, and it switches places. Now that makes sense, as opposed to, well, you can click for heading level 3, Potter Responsibilities, and click up. But that doesn't move it up above the other heading. So if you want to switch those headings, so Potter Responsibilities is now up at the top, and Favorite Places is down below. Well, we can't do it that way because otherwise it just bumps the Zions National Park, the body of the text, below that. Which, if you want to do that, that's fine. But what you can do instead is you can go ahead and you see how you hover over that bulleted point, the plus sign? Well, the plus sign means when you double click, it collapses, so it hides everything, and you get that fuzziness underneath it. The fuzziness means that there's something below that. So that way it lets you know that you've got some supporting text to the heading here. And of course, if you double click really fast, it expands. But what you can do, instead of double clicking to expand and collapse, which we know how to do, and also you can do it up here, when you click anywhere within Potter Responsibilities, heading level 3, that you can also go ahead and collapse and expand. But you can also click on that plus sign there and hold the left mouse button down, and you got the 4-way arrow. You can go ahead and move, and you see the line? It takes everything from heading level 3 and its supporting content, if there was a heading level 4, 5, 6, and also the body of the text, and moves it up to wherever that line is, that when I let go, that's how you switch places between headings. Cool. And you might want to make it easier on yourself when it comes to moving your headings around without having the contents expanded completely. So as you recall, you can go ahead and double click to collapse it, but better yet, if you have tons of heading level 3s down below and not double clicking on every single one to collapse all of them, let me double click to expand it, you can come up here and say what level you want to show. So click on the drop down arrow and say you just want to show, well, there's level 1, and then we can go down to level 2, and if we want to see all the level 3s, everything else is collapsed underneath it, And you can see the fuzzies, which makes sense for draft outline because, well, it's got additional content below that. Like when I double click to expand it, it's got that one little paragraph, and that's the only reason why. Otherwise, well, this is obvious when that's showing, so if I go ahead and go back to level 3 so it collapses, we wouldn't need the fuzzy line because it's obvious we've got content below that. But that's in addition to something that's below that, the body of the text, or that one little empty paragraph bulleted point, as opposed to these other subheadings to that subheading, level 3 to level 2, and then to level 1. So in any case, you can go ahead and see everything at the level 3 level and be able to, if you had 20 of these, not have to scroll down if you have a lot of text for each of those levels, to be able to double click to collapse, to click and drag around. Well, it's just all right here. You can just go ahead and click and drag that one up and then click and drag that down, whatever your flavor is. Cool. And that makes it a lot more easier or manageable when you're working with and rearranging your headings around and the body of the text for those headings. And then when you're done, just go ahead and click on Close Outline View. And you might be thinking, well, can I do that in the print layout view? Like when I click in the heading 1, you get that little triangle. Well, true, you can go ahead and collapse everything below that to the next heading, heading 1. But what you can't do is you can't, well, let me expand that and let's do this one right here. Click on it to collapse it. You can't click on that triangle and drag it around to rearrange it. So the outline view does have some advantages there, as well as choosing the levels that you want to be able to view, which I'd have to go ahead and click on all these triangles to collapse it to focus just on the level 3 headings and not the body of the text below it. The master document contains other related documents called subdocuments. And why would you want that? Well, say you have a bunch of coworkers working on 5 different documents, and you have to go out and check up on each of their documents. If they're scattered on your computer or throughout the network, you have to go out each time to work with it. Better yet, search for it once and provide a link to it, so you can just open up the master document here, and when you need to check on those documents, since you already have a link to it, click on it and it'll take you right to it. Another benefit is not only does it insert the link, but that link is also expandable. And when you expand it, it'll display all the text that's contained within those documents, and any changes you make in the expanded link will automatically update the documents it's linked to, or known as the subdocuments, which is pretty cool because if I have any changes or comments I'd like to add, I don't have to open up their document. I can make all the changes within the master. That's why it's called the master, because you can manage many other documents all within one. And you can also print multiple documents without opening up each one separately. So to go ahead and create your master document, well, I'm going to use my blank document as the master, so I just need to save it. Come up here, click Save. It'll do a Save As, since it's the first time I'm saving it. And on my desktop, you can see I've got my subdocuments that I want to insert into the master here after I saved it. And I conveniently called them subdocument 1, subdocument 2. I know it's very generic, but you can call it whatever you want. In any case, for the sake of the training video, all documents you insert into the master known as subdocuments, so that's why I called them that. So let me go ahead and call this my master. You can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call it master and hit enter. And you can see on the title bar, master. Now to insert other documents into my master that I can link to and also see the contents of those documents all within the master, come up here, click on the View tab, go to the Views group, and let's go to Outline. Now in the outline here, to be able to create subdocuments or insert other documents in here as subdocuments, you have to come over here to the master document group and say that you want to show document. Click on it. It expands it, so in the master document group, we can create subdocuments or insert them. Let's insert them first. Click on it, opens it up, and it says, okay, where's your subdocument? Well, there's Mr. Sub number 1. Go ahead and double click, and it inserts it. Let's scroll up so we can see the full breadth of it. It's the poem, there's no other way, and you can see it's within its box here as subdocument 1. And when I scroll down, let's insert subdocument 2. Now when you insert additional subdocuments or you create them, you can't be in the box here for another subdocument, because if you insert one or create it, well, it's going to be a mess. So let's go ahead and click on the outside next to that minus bullet here, and then come up and click on Insert, and let's do number 2. double click. And there we go, scroll up. Keep going until, hey, cool, so we have two different documents that we're linked to into the master, the poem and the cure all essential oils. Now they're linked to those documents on my desktop. How do you know? Well, if I make a change here, like instead of written by Kurt Kershaw, I do a pseudonym like, yo, what's up, KCK? And then I come up here and I click save, minimize this down to the taskbar, and then on my desktop in subdocument 1, double click to open it up. I know you're thinking, hey, I thought you said that we can go ahead and have a link within the document that we can click on to open up the subdocument. Well, I'll show you that in just a minute, but right now I'm doing it this way. Let me go ahead and scroll down to the bottom, and do I have the pseudonym? Hey, there we go, KCK. And what I do in one, vice versa, will update the other. So when the coworker is working on the poem and goes, hey, what's this KCK? Let me go ahead and save that, and then close out. When I go back to my master, is it updated? Oh, it did. He updated it because they're linked. Now, if I want to convert them to links to be able to collapse them and focus on how many subdocuments I have and where they're at, well, you could go ahead and scroll and see how many you have by looking at the boxes. Well, it's a long way to scroll. For that one box, then scroll down until you hit the second box and so on. In any case, to be able to convert them into links, so you can actually click on it and it'll open up that subdocument, just come up here, Master Document, click on Collapse. And automatically it collapses the text, converts it to a link. So if you want to go right to it, you can see when you hover over the link, it says in the pop-up, hold down the control key and you get the finger, click on it, and it opens it up. Hey, welcome back, isn't that nice? And then I can come in here and go, well, let's do way, and then make any changes, click save. When I close out, go back to the master. If I want to go ahead and expand it, way, okay, that's not cool. So I can go ahead and override that and then save mine, and it updates his. Now when you collapse them, as you can see, the address, it's from the C drive, the user's logged in as training on the desktop, subdocument 1 and the extension .dlcx. It tells the operating system what program to open up this file in. DLCX is for Microsoft Word. In any case, if you want to know more about extensions, you can watch my Windows training video on extensions. And as far as the address goes, if somebody takes subdocument 1 and deletes it or puts it into another folder so it's not at this address on your desktop, well, when you control click on it, it'll give you the raspberries and say, oh, I can't find it. And if it can't find it, then you can go ahead and delete this and insert it as a subdocument again, well, once you find out where it's at, and get that new address. So it's pulled in, and of course it'll be linked. Now, if I want to insert more subdocuments, well, make sure you're not within one. Go to the end here. And this time instead, let's go ahead and create one. Now to create one, let me come up here and expand subdocuments because I can't create one with them collapsed. And so let me scroll down to, well, instead of scrolling down to the end, let's do Control End, as in END, the end key. So it takes me to the end. And then I can come up here and click on Create. And then it creates my subdocument. Of course, I'm on the outside of it. Let me go in it. Type in anything, and well, there you go. Did it create it? Well, let's go ahead and collapse to subdocuments, and it says, do you want to save changes to the master? Okie dokie. And it's right there, and the name of the document is the first words that I typed in it. Well, the only words. Type in anything, and it's on the desktop. How do you know? Well, let's take it for a test drive. Hover over it, hold down the control key, get the finger, click. There it is. Type in anything. Oh, it really doesn't like that, doesn't it? In any case, you can go ahead and make your changes and say, this is a new document. Oh, it's got the heading right there. That's cool. Let's go ahead and click save, close out, go back to our master, and then to see the changes, instead of going back to the document with a control click, we can expand and then Control End to go to the end, and there you go, new documents. Cool. And then to get rid of them, well, you can do it expanded or collapsed. You just need to click on this little dude right here to select the entire subdocument here. In fact, let's go ahead and collapse it, and then do it again right here. Click on the dude. It's a lot easier if you have to do multiple deletions instead of scrolling up and down. If you got a lot of subdocuments, you can just go ahead and click on the tag right there, hit the delete key, and it's gone. Now it doesn't delete it from the computer, it just deletes it as a link in your master to the desktop. How do you know? Well, let me click Save, minimize that down to the taskbar, type in anything. Hey, it's right there. Didn't remove it. Double click, and the contents are still there. Cool. Let's close out, go back to the master, and then if you want to be able to unlink your documents from the subdocument, like this one right here, when you click in it, you can't unlink it unless you expand it. So expand them, and then click in the one that you want to break from, and then come up here, unlink it, and there you go. You no longer get the box, and when you collapse it, it converts it to a link because it's no longer linked. So any changes I make here, like no way, and I come up here and click Save, that when I minimize that down to the taskbar, because when I click on collapse, this doesn't collapse into a link, but when I scroll down, the other one does expand, and of course the other one expands because that one is linked to subdocument number 2. So let me minimize that down to the taskbar. Subdocument 1, double click, and you see there's just way. Where here, it's totally way. If you want to hide content, anything that's selectable in your document, in case you want readers to focus on certain parts of your document without highlighting text or deleting unimportant text for that given time, to hide it, well, go ahead and select whatever you want to hide, like this paragraph, for example. And to hide it, you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can either, well, come up here on the Home tab to the font group and click its expandable dialog box button, or Control D opens up the window here, as opposed to clicking on the button. And you can come down here and check Hidden, and then click Okie dokie, and it's gone. You can do that, or let me do another here. Well, let me click and drag and just select that paragraph. The shortcut keys to hide the selection is Control-Shift-H, and it's gone. Now, if you want to be able to view them temporarily without revealing them, you can come up here on the Home tab to the paragraph group and turn on the codes. And when you do that, everything that's supposed to be hidden is now revealed, but to let you know that it's supposed to be hidden and that you shouldn't be looking at it, or as such, you get the dots underneath the content that is hidden when you don't reveal the codes. And so it's that paragraph and that one right there. And then when I go ahead and select it, they disappear. Now, the quickest way to unhide all of your content, if you want all of it unhidden, as opposed to, well, I think there's content hidden in between the two here, you can go ahead and click and drag and select everything in between and do Control D, and you can see that part of it's hidden and part of it isn't. That's why it's not checked, as opposed to, well, that's checked. But this one can't be checked because part of what we selected is hidden and the other part isn't, so it's got just a block in there. So we have to click on it to remove the block, and then click on it to remove the check, and then click Okie dokie, and it reveals it. You can do it that way, or of course you can go ahead and turn on the codes and select what's hidden and Control D to bring up the font expandable dialog box button and uncheck hidden, or better yet, let me click cancel, turn off the codes. The quickest way to unhide everything within the document is to do Control A to select all, and then go ahead and do Control D to bring up the expandable font window here. And then, of course, because it has some that's hidden and some that isn't, it's got it blocked in. So click once to remove the block, click twice to remove the check, and then click Okie dokie, and then everything in the document that's hidden is now revealed. The document properties contains helpful information about the document, like statistical number of pages and words, who last modified it, if it was ever printed, author and company's name, title, subject, searchable keywords, comments, and more. Now, there are a few places you can go to view and edit the document properties. One way is with the document open, you can go backstage. Click on the File tab. Info selected by default says Document Properties, but more specifically, we're looking at the properties over here. You got the size, number of pages, words, total editing time, the title. Now, if you want to add things about the document but not display them in the document, like maybe a title, well, go ahead and add it here. My spiffy poem. And then below that are tags. Now tags are searchable keywords, so when you do a search for this document in Windows, if the words are within the document, it'll find it. But if you have words that you want searchable for this document that's not within the document, and you don't want to put them in the document, well, go ahead and add them here as a tag, and we'll type in something spooky, because that's not in the document. Neither is zoinks or something gnarly. And now when I do a search, it'll pull up this document because it's got these keywords here, or tags. You can add comments and see when it was last modified, created, last printed, which when you hover over it, it says never. And then down below the author. Now, when you create a document from scratch, it's going to pull in the name. As you recall in an earlier training video, when you go over to Options, from the General tab, which is right here, your username. So make sure you've got that correct. If not, then let's go ahead and click Cancel. Click on File. Come down here, and if you want to be able to right-click and remove the person, if that's not the right person, then go ahead. Or if you want to add, well, when you add an author, it's going to check the Outlook Contacts folder, and if it's not there, don't freak out. It'll still add the author, but that's where it's checking the database there. So let's click in here and type in Slarty Bart, and it says we couldn't find the person you were looking for in the contacts database. That's all right. Just go ahead and click out, and it adds it. And like I said, if you don't want the author there, you can right-click and remove them. Now, there are more properties than what's showing here, so we can click on the link Show All Properties. Gives us more here. You've got the status. You can type in what the status of the document is. Maybe it's in progress or 50%, whatever you want to type. Categories, you can add those. Subject, and then the hyperlink base, meaning that when you add a link in the document and they click on it, since this is the base, it's going to take them right to my website. That's pretty cool. In any case, you may want to remove that so any links you add to the document actually work and take you to the website, not the base here. And then the company. And if you want more properties or advanced, come up here and click on that teeny tiny triangle, or when you hover over properties, it turns blue. Click on it, and you can see more advanced properties. Click on that. Well, let's start off on the first tab, General. Gives me the type, location, size, when it was created, modified, access, dates and time. Then we have the summary. Again, pretty much what we saw over here is in the summary. The title, subject, and what you do here will update over here and vice versa. Category, there's the keywords. And over here, it calls them tags. You see what I mean? When I talked about keywords, well, it's keywords here. And then the hyperlink base, well, let me go ahead and delete that. And let's go to statistics. The same thing on the General tab, created, modified, last saved by, oh, it was me. Oh, rats. If there's anybody to blame, they'll come after me. The number of revisions, total editing time, pages, paragraphs, lines, words, characters. Well, you can get that from the front stage as well on the Review tab, and I'll go over that in just a minute. And then you got the contents. We just have a title here. That's all I've got for the contents. And then Custom, which is pretty cool because you can go through some of the built-in fields. Like if you want to select that one, say it was checked by, then come down below and you can do text, which means that the type of value to put in that field is going to be text. So you can say it was checked by me, or type in your name and then click Add, and there you go. So that's part of the properties. Or you can go ahead and select that, and well, it's in modification mode right now. So if I come down below and say, well, was it checked by or checked yes or no? Well, checked by is by a person. It's not yes or no. So what you can do is come up here and create your own. So now it's just checked yes or no. And you can set the value, no, and click Add, and there we go. Oh, if I want to modify this and say it's not by me, and say it's by, well, let's go ahead and say it's by Kurt, and then say modify, there you go, it updates it. So it was checked by Kurt, but then down below it says it wasn't checked, a yes or no data type, and we put in no, so I better change that and say, well, since it's checked by me, then it must be yes, unless it's something that's supposed to be checked by me and I haven't checked it yet. In any case, it's up to you, your flavor, how you want to go ahead and set the fields. So you can go ahead and choose from any one of these, or go ahead and just type your own and say, was it reviewed, yes or no, or the date it was reviewed, or you can use the other data type for number, which means when you select number, you type in a number here, the value. In any case, when you're done, go ahead and click Okie dokie, and you don't have to save it, automatically saves it. And you can see over here the hyperlink base is now gone. And that's one way to check the properties of your document. Another way, let me go ahead and close out of it, and we want to save it. And that's the document that we were just in on the desktop, is that you can go ahead and hover over it. Now let me click off, then hover over it again. You get the pop-up, some very basic properties like the authors, the title, my spiffy poem. And if you want to get more, you can, instead of opening the document, right-click on it, and in the shortcut menu, go down to Properties. And you can see on the General tab, you got the location size, size on disk, created, modified, accessed. Let's skip the Security tab, go right to the Details. And you got pretty much the same fields, or a lot of them, that we saw backstage when we had the document open here, like the title, which, by the way, what you do here, and you can edit them here, it'll update it in the properties backstage when you open it up. You can just say my spiffy p, period. And then tags, if you want to get rid of one, like, well, when I click in it, it says add a tag, and use the delimiter semicolon to add the next tag. You can also delete all that and just say something like Zoinks. And let's go to categories. In any case, you can make a lot of the modifications here and then get additional information like the origin, the authors, it was last saved by me, revision. Well, it's quite a bit of information. And then down at the bottom, you can remove the properties and personal information, like if this stuff before you hand the document off to somebody else is personable and you don't want them to go, hey, what's my spiffy p? I mean, it's proprietary to you, the properties, but the document is probably universal for others to share with. In any case, if you want to remove all that stuff, you don't have to come back here and delete it. You can go ahead and click on that link, which we'll talk about in the next training video, which is also the same as Document Inspector. It inspects the document for personal information that you can go ahead and remove in a single click. So you want to watch the next training video if you want to clean up your properties and get rid of all that personal information. But in any case, when we're done, let's click Okie dokie and see the changes by opening up the document. Double click. And then clicking on the File tab, Backstage Info, come over here. There you go, my spiffy p and not poem. I know it's poem, but hey, poem's fun. And then, like I said, when it comes to cleaning up your document, you can inspect the document, click on Check for Issues, Document Inspector, check the document for hidden properties or personal information. So you can actually clean up all this stuff over here that you typed in, which is proprietary to you, before you hand it off to somebody else. And instead of coming over here again and deleting all the fields, which can be quite cumbersome, go ahead and watch the next training video. I think you'll find a lot of value in it if you want to clean up your properties in a jiff. Oh, and then as I said, let me go ahead and hit the back arrow. Up here on the Review tab, to the Proofing group, you can click on Word Count. So you don't have to go to the properties to find out how many pages are within the document, number of words, characters, spaces, paragraph lines, close out. And you can see a lot of it down below on the status bar if you choose to right-click on it to be able to include like the word count. As you recall in the last training video, we went over the document properties, which contains personal information about the document, things that's proprietary to you. For example, when you go Backstage File, Info selected by default, and you come over here, you can see the title that I put in for the document is my spiffy p, and then the searchable keywords, which are known as tags here, is like Zoinks. So the document can be found when I search for Zoinks. And then down below, the author, let me scroll down and show all properties. We also have the company name, and then under Properties to Advanced, on the Custom tab, it was checked by me, and yes, I did check it. So when I hand this document off to somebody else, if I don't want my personal information to go with it, how I handled the document backstage here in the properties, I could go ahead and select and delete, and then come over here and clear out this by clicking in there and deleting it. But if you got a lot of information, more than just one that's filled out, then you may want to use the Document Inspector because it can go ahead and inspect your document for personal information like that and remove all that in a single click. You want to see? Alrighty. On the same tab where it says Inspect Document, you can go ahead and check for issues, and right there, check the document for hidden properties or personal information. So not just personal information, but hidden properties. What kind of hidden properties? Go ahead and click on it, and it will tell you everything it's going to be checking for. Like it'll inspect the document for comments, versions, revision marks, and ink annotations. So if you inserted a bunch of comments and ink annotations that you don't want to go with the document when you hand it off to somebody else because that's just your markups and comments, well, go ahead and inspect it so it can find it. When it finds it, you get the option to remove it, as well as what we're just talking about now, document properties and personal information, task pane add-ins, embedded documents, macros, forms, and ActiveX controls, collapse headings. Whew, it just goes on, doesn't it? And also invisible content and hidden text, as we went over in an earlier training video. So if you want to go ahead and clear all that out in a GIF, click on Inspect. And if it finds anything like comments, revisions, versions, annotations, then it'll have Remove. And it didn't find any, so I don't have Remove. But it did find some personal information, document properties like, well, the author and properties that I've customized over here in the properties section, like the title. Let's see, anything else? No, that's it. Pretty clean. So if I want to go ahead and remove all this before I send it off to somebody else, let's see what happens when I click on Remove All. That's it. Let's go ahead and close. And then if it doesn't refresh here, you may want to go ahead and click back, save your work, close out of here. You shouldn't have to save it. It should clear it out. And then let's go ahead and open up the document here. Double click. Then go Backstage File. And, well, I don't see the title. Let's do Show All Properties. I don't see the company name. Scroll down. I don't see any authors. Okay, getting a little excited here. Properties to Advanced Properties. Custom. I'm not there. Oh, I've been cleared of all accusations of tampering with this document or my personal information and things that I've tweaked or customized within the properties here. Cool. Now I can go ahead and forward this on to somebody else, and when they go through this and they check out the properties, if there's some sort of questions about the document, well, since I'm not tied to it, they don't know who to go to. And that could be good or bad, but if you want to leave it, then don't click on Remove All. You'll have to go in individually and delete those things that you don't want to pass on instead of using the Remove All. To set formatting and editing restrictions to your document, well, come with me, good neighbor. Up here, click on the Review tab, go to the Protect group, and click on Restrict Editing. Opens up the task pane, and we'll work our way from top to bottom. So first off is formatting restrictions. You can limit formatting to a selection of styles. Styles like, well, up here on the Home tab in the Styles group, like the Heading 1 style. If you don't want anybody to use that within the document, then go ahead and check the box to limit, and then click on the Settings to go ahead and from the list of those that are currently allowed, let's scroll to and find, oh, there you go, Heading 1, uncheck it, click Okie dokie, and then it says if the document already contains this style and it's not allowed, do you want to remove it? Or just one rule for you and another rule for them. So that way you can keep it for you, but they can apply it when you enforce the protection here. So how about if we just say no, we don't want it removed, so we can keep mine here. But when I come over here and I click on Start Enforcing the Protection, well, you can see Heading 1's there. So it's still available for others to use, but when I click on Enforce and I type in a password, or I just click Okie dokie, you can see the Heading 1 style disappears. Nobody else can use it from this point forward. Unless they come over here and they click on Stop Protection, which, by the way, when you close out of the task pane and they're like, what the fudge? I can't use the Heading 1 style. What happened? Well, if they watch this training video, they could come up here, click on the Review tab, go to the Protect group and see if something's being restricted. Click on it, opens it up, and yeah, something's being protected. So they can go ahead and click on Stop Protection. They don't need a password, not in this example. And that's nice because maybe you want them to be able to stop the protection if they really need to, but they have to go out of their way in order to do it. So it's not likely they'll do it by mistake if they have to come over here to stop it. In any case, we've got that, and then let me uncheck that. Below that, you got editing restrictions. You can allow only this type of editing in the document. Well, what types? Let me check it and see what's available. Track changes, comments, filling in forms, no changes, read only. So first off, track changes. Let me select that. And as you recall in an earlier training video, we covered track changes where you can come up here on the Review tab, go to the Tracking group and turn them on. So any changes that you or anybody else makes when you turn it on, we'll keep track of it in red, typically red, and you can change the colors if you like. But as you recall, somebody can just come up here and deselect it and not have it track changes from that point forward. Well, if you want to enforce it and keep them from deselecting the track changes, at least without a password, then you can come over here and say, yes, start enforcing the protection. You can have a password P. Okay, I'm keeping the password simple. Click okie dokie, and it's enforced. So when they want to go ahead and make changes to the document, oh, it's keeping track of it. Rats. I can't get away with it because my fingerprints are all over it, or the changes that I'm making. So I'd have to go back and delete the changes I'm trying to make if I don't want it tracked. Or I can come up here and try to deselect it to untrack it. And if it doesn't do that, I can click on the drop-down arrow, and it says the tracking's locked, so I can click on that. And if I have a password, great. You can do it that way, or let me close out of here. If you don't, click on the drop-down arrow to unlock it, you can come over here to the Protect group, click on Restrict Editing, and stop the protection. And we do have the password, it's P. Hit enter, and there you go. Now they can go ahead and make any changes without it being tracked. So that's one editing restriction. Another is comments. So they can go ahead and make comments anywhere within the document, but that's the only thing they can do, unless you got some exceptions. And so it says select parts of the document and choose the users who are allowed to freely edit those sections. So if I do, this paragraph here, and I choose the users, if you're connected to a server, like a lot of companies have set up with Microsoft, they'll have a list of all the names here. You can go ahead and check whoever, or select more users, click on that and choose a user. Let me click cancel. Since I'm not connected to a bunch of other people at the company, the best I can do is go ahead and choose everyone. So everyone can make changes to this selection. And how about this one right here, everyone, and maybe this one right there, everyone. Okay, so only within those three sections can they make any changes they want. Outside of that, they can only insert comments. Well, right now they can do anything they want until I start enforcing it. So if I come over here and say enforce, and I'll do it without a password. I mean, you get the whole password thing, right? Let's go ahead and click okie dokie, and there you go. And it says over here in the task pane, if they have it open, it highlights the regions that I can edit. So if you want to find the next region that you can edit, click on Find, and it goes from 1 to 2 to 3. Once you get to that region, anywhere within the region between those two square brackets, you can go ahead and do whatever you want. Outside of that, Zippo, except for comments. So you can right-click to add a comment and say this is a comment. I can add Groovy, and that's it. And you can even add comments in here. You can do anything within those editing regions. So when you're done, go ahead and click on Stop Protection. And let me slide back here. And let's go to the next one. So we've got comments, filling in forms, which we'll cover in a later training video when we actually create a form, that you can go ahead and lock it so they can only fill in those parts of the form that you want them to fill in. So they can't change the form, like the text where it says first name, last name, where they want to change it so it says first for first name and last for last name, things like that. And then no changes, read only. Let's select that. So they can go ahead and read only these parts of the documents except for, the exception areas here. Then if I want to go ahead and remove the exceptions, if I uncheck that, it gets rid of that paragraph and I just have these two. So they can only make changes to those two. Let's go ahead and enforce that and click okie dokie. So they can read all that. They can't, when they click within the document, hit the delete key. You can see down below in the status bar, you can't make changes to this because the selection is locked. Alrighty then. How about here? Of course. So if we just delete the S, you see you can make changes there within those two regions. Let's go ahead and stop it. And then remember, if you want to be able to restrict editings when it comes to filling in forms, watch my forms training video. Digitally signing, or adding a digital signature to your document, does two things. It first confirms the identity of the person who digitally signed the document, and second, a document can't be modified without first removing that digital signature. So that way, if you say you sent me this document, but there's not a digital signature attached to it, Either you forgot to add it, or you added it but somebody else intercepted it and removed it, possibly making changes to it, in which case I can't trust the document that it's the original in part or as a whole. Now there are two ways you can digitally sign your document. One way is invisible. I know it sounds kind of kooky, but I'll explain it in just a minute, because the other way is visible. The invisible way to sign your document just means, hey, it's from me and it hasn't been modified. The other way, the visible, says the same thing. It hasn't been modified and it's from you, but also has a line that you can actually type your signature digitally on to say that you're accepting of whatever they have as in a signed contract, which Microsoft doesn't recommend that you use the digital signature to sign contracts electronically, the visible one at least, or both actually. But in any case, that's up to you. First, we'll do the invisible signature. To do that, you want to sign your documents? Well, come up here, click on the File tab, go backstage to Info, and then down to Protect Your Document, and then right there, Add a Digital Signature. And it says, ensure the integrity of the document by adding an invisible digital signature. I wasn't kidding. It's actually invisible. Well, not really, but in comparison to the signature line, it's not as visible as that, but we'll go over that in just a minute. Now, in order to use this service, you want to sign up for a digital signing service. Well, let me show you. Let's go ahead and click back, and to find what services are available, click on the Insert tab, go over to the text group, and click on the signature line drop-down arrow and say that you want to add a signature service. Click on it. Opens up the web page to support.office.com, where you can find digital ID or digital certificate services. Scroll down, gives you a list of companies. I got mine from, and I think that's a pretty cool signature. You can check out the others and see what works best for you. In any case, when it comes to installing this digital signature on your computer so you can sign your documents digitally, you want to go ahead after you purchase this, which is about 20 to 30 bucks a year to use these on average. In any case, you want to follow the instructions to install it on your computer, and then once you have it installed, then come with me, good neighbor. Let's close out of here. Go back once it's been installed and you followed the instructions from that digital service. Click on the File tab to sign it. Again, Info, Protect, to add a digital signature. And there's mine right there, Comodo. And let's start up at the top. You're about to add a digital signature to the document. The signature will not be visible within the content of this document. Well, it's not what you think it is. You can actually see it, not the actual details. There's a couple of things you can do to see the details after you signed it. In any case, we'll go over that in just a minute. First off, the commitment type, you can click on the drop-down arrow and say there's no commitment, or you created and approved this document, or you approved the document, or you created this document. I'll say I created and approved this document. And then the purpose for signing the document, if you've got one, you can go ahead and say something like, well, for me, to prove that it's really from me. And then below that, to include information about the signer, click the Details button. You can include whatever you like here, like the title, I'm the president, and anything else. I'm going to go ahead and click Okie dokie. And then you have the option to change your signature here. If you have more than one digital signature, click on Change. I only have one, so I'll have to go with that one. Let me click Cancel, but you can select another one and go OK with that. And then when you're done, click Sign. And it says your signature has been successfully saved with this document. The document's changed. Your signature becomes, well, erased, invalid. OK. And then it highlights it right here saying this document has been signed and marked as final. And we'll talk about the Mark as Final feature in the next couple of training videos. And if anyone tampers with the document, the signatures will become invalid or erased. And then you can see down below, this document has been marked as final to discourage editing. So they can go ahead and remove it, or they can edit the document, but when they do that, it removes the mark as final, which we'll cover in a later training video, and also erase the signature. So with it signed, let's go ahead and click the back arrow, and this is what it looks like in the front stage here. It's marked as final. You can go ahead and just close out of it, send it off to somebody else. They open it up and like, oh, it's been marked as final. Well, did Kurt sign it? How do you find out? Well, you can come down below on the status bar and it's right there. This document contains signatures. So you see what it means by invisible? It's not visible, but you can make it visible by clicking on that little ribbon right there well, if you can see it on that page, click on it, opens up the task pane. Oh great, valid signature says it's unknown, but if I click on the drop down arrow and I want the details, click on it, and there you go, opens it up, issued by Komodo. You can see additional signing information that was collected, click on the link. Wow, it really shows you everything, like what Office version I'm using, the Windows version, primary monitor, okie dokie. And then see information about the signer, click on it. Like we did, we typed in the title, President, okie dokie. And then if you want to view the certificate, go ahead and click on View. And there you go, certificate information. You also have the details and the certification path. The User Trust Network, Komodo, to, hey, that's my email, specialk@videotrainingpro.com. Cool. Let's go ahead and click okie dokie and then close out. And if you remove the digital signature, then, well, it won't be over here in the signatures task pane, making it invalid. Well, if it's not there, how can it be valid? And so to remove it, just go ahead and click on Edit the Document anyways. When you click on it, it says Editing will remove the signature in this document. You want to continue? Yes. Signature has been removed. The document has been saved. Okay, so there you go. No more signatures. When I close out, can't bring it back up from the status bar down below because that little document with the ribbon on it that lets you know that there's a signature tied to it, well, it's been cleaned out. So we don't have any signatures. And if you get a document like this without any signatures, you can go ahead and email the person back and say, hey man, what's up? Usually sign your documents. And they could say, oh, I forgot, in which case, all right, just go ahead and send it again. Or if they're like, hey, I signed it. Then you're like, oh my gosh, the NSA got a hold of this document. They made changes to it. I can't trust it. Or just let the person know that it was removed before you got it. In any case, they can go ahead and resend it again. So that's the invisible. Now you want to see the visible? Of course you do. Let's come up here, click on the Insert tab, and go to the text group, and click on the drop-down arrow. There's the Microsoft Office signature line. Or you can just go ahead and click on signature line, same thing. So to set it up, you want to go ahead and type in the suggested signer, for example, John Doe. Okay, that's going to be me. I'm the signer of this document, so it will be Kurt Kershaw. Suggested signer's title, President. Suggested signer's email, me at kurtkershaw.com. Instructions to the signer. Well, the default says before signing this document, verify the content you are signing is correct. You can leave it like that, or you can go ahead and, delete it and type in your own thing. Make sure you're okie dokie with this before we charge your credit card. And so before you sign it, you'll get the instructions to the signer that if they're okay, then they'll sign it. And then below that, you can allow the signer to add comments in the sign dialog and then show sign date in the signature line. Groovy. Let's go ahead and click okie dokie. When I click on it, it adds it right there. Now, do I want it there? Well, you can go ahead and click and drag it all the way down, which brings up a good point. Wherever you want this digital signature line at, that's where you want to put the cursor. And I just got one more page to go. Okay, towards the end there. Oh, that's better, because, signatures come at the end of documents. Well, typically they do. In any case, you go ahead and save the document, and then you send it off to that person for them to sign. Unless you set it up yourself, and you want to go ahead and sign it yourself, in which case, to sign it, you just have to double-click. Ooh, X marks the spot. You just need to type in your name to digitally sign it, or if you have an image with your chicken scratch, go ahead and click on Select Image, and browse throughout your computer, or you can search online for an image, but that doesn't sound too secure by using any image online. Let me close out. Oh, and don't forget, up at the top where we said make sure you are okie dokie with this before we charge your credit card. So they'd want to look up there to get any details about the signing, which is about the credit card. And then down below to include information about the signer, click the details button. Oh, sure, why not? You can type in president, whatever. I'm going to click cancel. You already have it right there. And then signing, you can use that digital signature certificate or click on change and choose another one, but I only have one, so I'm good. Click cancel, click sign. Your signature has been successfully saved with the document. If the document's changed, your signature will become invalid. Well, it will erase it. So let's go ahead and click OK, and hey, there it is. Oh, that's fun. It makes me feel so important. And there's the date right there of signing it. And so you can go ahead and send it back to the person when they get it. They're like, oh, that's nice. But if somebody gets it in the meantime and they click on edit anyways, that's not good, because then it clears out the signature here. And you can see down below on the status bar, it says the document contains digital signatures. You can click on that to open up the task pane or close out. You can also right click on this to get the signature details. Close out. You can also right click to get the signature set up, how it was set up, and then of course you can right click on it to remove the signature, or you can just come up here and click on edit anyways. And editing will remove the signatures in the document. Do you want to continue? Yes. Signatures have been removed. The document has been saved. So no going back. So in general, why digital signatures, for the most part, or the main reason why you digitally sign it, to let the other person know that it's from you. As far as security goes and legalities of it, well, you may want to talk to your attorney if you're signing a contract digitally here. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.